The way she said it was strangely polite, like she was explaining a scheduling conflict. "I'm moving in with Mark for a while," she said, "just until things stabilize for Lily. It'll help with co-parenting. You'll understand someday." She didn't say it apologetically, she said it like a reasonable adult explaining something practical. For a few seconds I thought I had misheard her. Mark was her ex-husband, Lily's father. A man whose name had lived in the background of our marriage like a permanent footnote. School pickups, shared holidays, the occasional tense text message. Moving in with him was a different category. I waited for the rest of the explanation. There wasn't one, so I said the only honest thing that came to mind. "Absolutely." She blinked. Not because she expected approval. More because she expected friction, a negotiation, an argument she had already rehearsed, but there was nothing to push against. "Really?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "If that's what you think is best." Something in the room shifted when I said that. Like air escaping a balloon. That night we started packing. It was strange how quickly a home could become inventory. She folded clothes into boxes while explaining routines for Lily. Morning schedules, soccer practices. The benefits of both parents being under the same roof again, even temporarily. I listened. Every now and then I handed her tape or wrapped something fragile. A mug she liked. A picture frame from a vacation 3 years ago. There were memories everywhere, but none of them felt loud anymore. Just quiet facts about a life that had existed. Around midnight she stopped and looked at me. "You're taking this really well." "I'm helping you move," I said. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. The next afternoon we loaded the car. The drive to Mark's house took about 20 minutes, long enough for the silence to become noticeable. She filled it with logistics. "It's really about Lily," she said at one point. "Kids do better when parents cooperate closely." "I believe you," I said. I meant that. Mark lived in a narrow 2-story house in a neighborhood full of identical lawns and cautious neighbors. When we pulled up, he was already standing outside. He looked uncomfortable in the specific way people do when they're trying to behave correctly. "Hey," he said. I said back. No hostility, no tension, just a polite exchange between two men connected by the same complicated orbit. We unloaded the boxes together. Bedroom first. Then the kitchen stuff she insisted on bringing. A few bags for Lily's room. Inside the house, everything looked carefully arranged. Mark had clearly been preparing for this. But there were small details that didn't quite match the story I'd been hearing. Extra paperwork stacked on the counter. A letter from a family court office sitting half-hidden beneath a magazine. A calendar covered in scribbled dates. I didn't comment. We carried the last box inside. "Well," she said, brushing her hands together. "I guess this is it." There was something almost ceremonial about the moment. 3 adults standing in a living room, pretending the situation was normal. I nodded. "Take care of yourself," I told her. She looked at me for a second like she was trying to read something on my face. "Thanks for understanding." Mark gave a small polite nod. I walked outside, got in my car, and sat there for a minute. The mailbox stood at the edge of the driveway. Before leaving, I stepped out again. The envelope had been sitting in my glove compartment for 2 weeks. It wasn't dramatic. No angry letter. No accusations, just documentation. Copies of the finalized financial responsibility agreement from Lily's school district, and a notice from the mediator handling our ongoing custody restructuring. The documents clarified something that had apparently never been explained to Mark. Because during the last year of Lily's schooling, I had been the registered financial guarantor for her enrollment and extracurricular programs. Which meant that if Lily's primary residence changed, if she was now living full-time under Mark's roof, those obligations legally followed the household she resided in. The mediator had told me this weeks ago. I had asked if I needed to notify anyone. She said simply everyone involved should be aware. I slipped the envelope into the mailbox and drove away. I didn't think about it much during the drive home. Consequences are quieter than people expect. They don't explode, they unfold. About 2 hours later my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. Just one sentence. "Mark says I can't stay here." I read it twice. A few minutes later another message appeared. "Why didn't you tell me about the school agreement?" I sat in my parked car outside my apartment building, watching the screen glow in the dark. The truth was simple. I had told her once. Months earlier, during a conversation about tuition paperwork. She hadn't really been listening. At the time, it didn't seem important to her. Now it was. Apparently Mark had checked the mailbox before dinner. Opened the envelope. Read the documents. He hadn't yelled. He hadn't threatened anyone. According to her follow-up message, he just stared at the paperwork for a long time and said something practical. If Lily lives here full-time, that makes this my legal responsibility now. Then he had done the math. School tuition, activity fees, insurance adjustments, housing declarations tied to the custody mediator's file. The arrangement suddenly looked very different than the one he thought he was agreeing to. His answer had been calm, but final. He wasn't willing to take on those obligations without a completely different legal agreement in place, which meant the living arrangement she had announced so confidently that morning ended before the first night. My phone buzzed again. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I was angry. Mostly because I was noticing something new. For a long time I had believed keeping the peace meant quietly absorbing situations before they reached their natural conclusion. Smoothing things out, preventing consequences. But today I hadn't done that. I hadn't fought her decision. I hadn't sabotaged anything either. I had simply stepped aside, and the reality of the situation had introduced itself on its own. Eventually I typed a short reply. "We can talk tomorrow." Then I turned off the screen and sat there for a while in the quiet. There was no victory in it. Just a strange, steady feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. Something close to dignity.